Kindred is a 4 mana 2/0. Huh. Nice try, guy. We all know they would never do something that stupid. You can't ban us for spoiling it if you don't know what the card does. Maybe you should check it to stop us from spoiling chat. Wait, that is true. I mean, that's, when you think about it, that is the only way to know for sure. Like, I mean, it's only 4 more minutes. Stay strong, don't get faded. Guys, we're almost there. We're almost there. All right. I want to remind you guys, we are doing, this is my strategy for today. This is how I bring balance back to the universe, okay? For those of you guys who don't know, it's very, very simple, okay? We are 9-minute time travelers. I've set my clock 9 minutes into the future. This way, as soon as after I watch the video, I can look at the cards. That's my balance, all right? I'm only time traveling a little bit. It's a perfect balance, okay? We're not leaking ourselves before the video, but I'm gonna look at them right after the video. Did the Mobalytics people give you a lecture? No, I actually talked with them yesterday, and they said, Swim, you're a pretty cool guy. And you know what, Swim? You're a cool dude. We're cool dudes. We love you, bro. And you can time travel on our site all you want. No problem here. And I said, yo, thanks, guys. But I actually think I'll try to not do it, guys. Because personally, just from, me and something that I decided on internally, I just feel like it would be better, for everyone involved if we just didn't time travel to before the video. That's how that conversation went down.
Never one.
Here we go.
The other. Shall we, dear wolf?
I'm ready.
5 mana 4/4 quick attack. The first time you slay a unit each round, I mark the weakest enemy. Round end, kill my marked enemy. Whoa!
Little lamb.
You have to slay 2 for her to level up. For them to level up.
I smell prey.
Lamb's Respite. Give the weakest ally I can't take damage or die this round. 2 mana slow.
Threads of fate, unraveled and rewoven.
Death is another beginning. Spirit Journey. Fast. Kill a unit, then revive it. And this can work on your units or theirs. Oh, that's interesting.
An interplay of shadow like dappled sunlight.
That was fun. Who will we chase now?
Everyone, dear wolf.
Okay, so when Kindred levels up, the first time you slay a unit each round, grant me +2/+2. So they just get stronger permanently. And it's still the same second part of the effect.
Hunted down.
With grace and precision.
Here the chase ends.
More like.
Was that a continuity error? I guess it wasn't.
Hunted down.
It looks like one.
Here the chase ends.
Just because of how it's edited. So Kindred is basically, it looks like a very control-y card. The ability to just like have, this looks pretty powerful. Like just being able to stick this in like a Shadow Isles, like a slower deck. This is not really a fast card. You want to stick this in a slower deck. It's a pretty good engine that's kind of hard to kill. And you can basically just like get free removal. If you're like removing all their small stuff, Kindred will for free mark and kill usually bigger things, because you know when you're manually killing small things, the weakest things will be bigger. I see this kind of like in my head. I'm comparing this to something like Trundle. Teemo hat. Oh my god, I hate you guys. I'm comparing this in my head to something like Trundle, if that makes sense. In like a slow control-y deck. It's like a 5 mana. Sometimes you deal this like 4 chip damage because, you know, Kindred has quick attack in that way. And you're playing like a slow control-y deck and making sure that this free ability is killing off part of the board instead of being kind of like a push damage condition like Trundle is. Looks pretty good. Looks pretty solid. All right. Moment of truth, guys. Oh, it works. The 9-minute time travel game plan worked perfectly. Okay, so we already saw some of it. So Spirit Journey is Kindred's champion spell. Spirit Leech, a 4 mana 4/1, play kill an ally to draw 2. I mean, it's got 1 health. The Etherfiend, 7 mana fearsome, 6/4, kill an ally to kill an enemy. Ooh, that one looks clunky. Fading Icon, when I'm summoned, summon a prey. It's a 2 mana 3/1, and it summons this token, which is a 0/1. Okay, so it's just it's kind of like a differently distributed house spider. Mask Mother, kill an ally to grant me its stats and keywords. Stats and keywords. There's got to be something to do with that. Unto Dusk, 2 mana, burst, draw 1. Nightfall, activate an ally's Nightfall effect, ignoring any targeted portions. So if you're using it on like on a Cygnus or something, it'll give it elusive again, but it won't proc the targeting for the second elusive or something like that, right? That's interesting. I don't know if that would be worth. You might maybe in Nightfall. Song of the Isles grants an ally lifesteal, fearsome, and ephemeral. And it's a grant. I mean, the fact that it's a grant has a small way of mattering because, of course, it's ephemeral. But, of course, there's ways of taking off the ephemeral. Like, for example, that one card in Ionia. You guys know the one. Deathmark. Yeah, thank you very much. Sorry. And when I'm sleep deprived, I'm having trouble thinking of card names. Whew. This is pretty interesting. So, there's a lot of cute things you can do with these. I'm looking at this card, Spirit Journey. Kill a unit and then revive it. This one... This is very similar to one of the stasis effects we've seen before, right? It's really, really comparable to Lyssandra's Entomb, right? It just like takes something off the board and then brings it back. The Entomb disables it for an extra turn, but Spirit Journey does a very similar thing where you can protect yourself, you can protect your own unit, or you can send those away for a turn. You missed a card. The last card is just the skill. The second death is just the skill from the Etherfiend. It counts as a slay too. Yeah. So that's interesting. Spirit Journey is looking pretty decent, actually. I do like this ability to basically just kind of like have a stasis. You're stopping an entire attack. When you're thinking about like the defensive ability of this card, it is very, very, very similar. I would say basically the same to Entomb. It doesn't have some of the combos Entomb has. Does it summon? Yes, this will trigger summon effects. When it's off the board and revived, it's basically like the same kind of thing that Chronicler does, right? That you guys know Chronicler. So when you're thinking about the defensive ability of these cards, they're very similar because it would seem intuitively like, okay, Entomb traps it for 2 turns, so that would be kind of better on opponent units, right? It's gonna end up being basically the same. Because when you use it on their attack, when you use Spirit Journey on their attack, it basically stops that attack, and then they keep the unit. And for most units, that's going to end up being the same. And Tomb has a bit more offensive potential, actually, because their unit is out of commission for their blocking turn. But it's still like the same amount of attacks that you're stopping. And Spirit Journey, I guess, is a little bit better than Tomb on your own units because you get it back right away. And you can protect units from removal. Like, you can use this as kind of like a deny, right? Or like, in some ways, it's kind of like a bastion. If you have something you want to protect and they go in to kill it, Spirit Journey will just stop that from happening, which is pretty cool. I do like these stasis cards. In my head, this is kind of another stasis card. The one difference between Spirit Journey and these two stasis cards, the big difference is that it doesn't summon an exact copy like Entomb does. So, Entomb will bring the unit back exactly as it was, whereas Spirit Journey will remove all modifiers or buffs or whatever from the card. So if you use it on a champion, Spirit Journey will reset the champion level up condition, whereas Entomb doesn't. Entomb leaves it intact. But it's still a pretty cool card. It's not bad. Kindred is okay. Let's take it from the top. Kindred's interesting. So these cards are all a bit slower than I was thinking. I was looking at the Shurima cards yesterday, and I was thinking, man, these are probably going to be their strongest. These are probably going to be their strongest when you play them in like at least a semi-aggressive bundle, right? Like, for example, cards like Bakai Reaper and Rampaging Bakai, and like comparing with like some of the Shadow Isles package, that lends itself really well to like an aggressive strategy. These cards are mostly very slow and more kind of like defensive, more control-y, which makes sense. Kindred, I don't think you'd run in that kind of aggro package, although it might not be that bad. You really, I see Kindred as being potentially kind of insane in like a control deck. Like, this feels a little scary to me. Just the ability to stick a 5-mana 4/4 on the board that just helps. That I feel like this is gonna make the opponent's actions really awkward sometimes. Like, if they don't have a good way to remove this, all you have to do is like, you're playing a control deck, so you have a bunch of little pings. You ping one of their units, and then suddenly they have to do something to protect something that Kindred would be marking, right? Compare Kindred to Arel the Tracker. Oh God. Oh Jesus Christ. Oh, you're right. Like, let's compare Kindred to Arel the Tracker. So Arel the Tracker is a 6-mana 2/5. So it costs 1 more mana. If you cast a spell this round, she deals 2 damage to the weakest enemy. Instead of killing, it's got less stats, it doesn't have the keyword, it costs more mana, it's in a worse region for this effect, and it has a higher deck building cost. But let's do one better. Let's do one better. Because for a while I've actually been saying, you know what? When you think about it, Lux is kind of like sort of awkward for the same reasons Arel is. She's much better than Arel. But let's also compare Lux to Kindred. Like, okay, so Barrier is good. That's a free block. But Lux is 1 more mana. That's a big deal. And she needs to level up to even start removing things. You need to play a 6+ mana spell to even start removing things on the board. And Kindred doesn't. Kindred is 1 less mana, which is huge. And right away, as soon as, like, you know, your deck, your control deck, you will have these smaller pings. So you do still need something to start killing the units, but it's not as expensive as like playing a whole 6 mana thing. And of course, the beams are definitely less powerful overall than the marks for a few reasons. But I think that the fact that it's 1 less mana, and probably most importantly, honestly, I think maybe even bigger, that the fact that Kindred is just in a region that makes perfect sense for them. Like, Kindred is perfect for Shadow Isles with their kind of control game plan. Like, they'll be pinging off units. You can run this in, like, people have been bringing back these SI PNZ Karina style decks lately. You could run it in that. More traditionally, like SI Freljord control, just slap it in there. Looks pretty good. And of course, you're going to be slaying a lot of units in these kinds of control decks. That's so interesting. It works with your own units with Glimpse. Oh yeah, and I guess I forgot to mention, because some of you guys might not have seen the reveals yesterday. A more professional streamer would have mentioned this at the start, but slay means killing any unit with one of your cards, or killing an opponent's unit with one of your units striking, basically. So it doesn't count ephemeral. So Kindred looks pretty hot.
Alexa,
I'm
play
liking that.
Despacito.
Yo, Sweet Blood 4. Thanks for the host, man. All right. Lamb's Respite. Give the weakest ally I can't take damage or die this round. Why is this slow? I mean, obviously for 2 mana, it would be broken if it was at faster speed, but what can you do with this? Like, what can you actually do with this? There might be some crazy combo. Kegs? Oh, using it on kegs? SI Fiora? Yeah, SI Fiora. Look, listen. Guys, I'm enough of a degenerate that the moment I read this card, Fiora came to my mind too. Okay? Listen. You guys aren't gonna catch me not realizing a Fiora combo, okay? But, I mean, for slow speed, and Fiora doesn't want to be an SI that much, it's just not that good. You can use this to save Rabbit in Labs challenge. Oh, that's funny. Out of the way. Oh, out of the way. Okay, now we're talking. Out of the way. Oh. For the rest of the game, allied buffs are permanent, draw 1. So, you're running a Targon Shadow Isles deck. On turn 3, you play out of the way. And on turn 4, you can use Lamb's Respite on something. Now, you've banked 1 mana, so you have a total of 3 possible mana on turn 4. You have a total of 3 unit mana that you can use to make something immortal forever. And hope they don't have a counter response. What's the best 3 mana unit between Targon and Shadow Isles to just make it completely immortal? Guys, there's a really easy answer to this. You guys are too pure of heart. You guys are all suggesting like Zoe and Sparklefly and stuff like that. You guys apparently haven't been playing on ladder for the past 2 weeks. Guys, it's just Aphelios. Like, that's it. This is like the biggest no-brainer of all time. It's just Aphelios. So check it. Turn 1, float. Turn 2, float. Turn 3, we've got 6 mana. So on our turn 3 for 6 mana, we use out of the way. Banking 1 mana. Apparently out is not a good keyword. Turn 4, our banked mana combines with our 4. So we're at 5 mana total on turn 4. Okay, but we can't use Respite before Aphelios. So we're going to have to skip the Nightfall. That's a little awkward. It's not like the most perfect curve ever. There have to be, like, okay, I think I can guarantee you that's probably the best way to use Lamb's Respite, but I can also guarantee you that's almost certainly not the best way to use Aphelios. Darkwater Scourge? Wait a second. That's not bad. Hang on. Undying? Yeah, use this on Undying. Great one, dude. Good deck. That's crazy. Dude, honestly, this on Darkwater Scourge? That's kind of toxic. That's kind of disgusting. Half the decks in the game can't end the game against an immortal 5/5 with lifesteal. Like, yes, 100%. Marcus is on the nose here, guys. Like, literally, imagine this. Imagine you are playing half the decks in the meta right now, and homie straight up, turn 3 uses out of the way, and turn 4 uses Darkwater Scourge into Lamb's Respite. It's a Shadow Isles Targon deck. Like, seriously, imagine you are playing half of the decks in the meta right now. Like, That's kind of crazy. That's literally like that's it. That's over. What? That's I mean, yeah, and there's obviously stuff like Hush, but it's not like this deck won't do other things. Guys, just because this 3-card combo has counters to not be a literal auto win doesn't mean the rest of my cards in my deck aren't doing other things. I've only named 3 cards here, guys. Like, that's pretty big. There will be some build around here. There will be a way to build this deck. I do think out of the way with Lamb's Respite seems to be the way to go. It seems like out of the way kind of has to be how we use this. I think so. I think so. There might, like, Fiora is kind of adorable, and some of you guys are saying kegs. So, if in theory you make, like, it's a meme deck, but it is kind of funny as a meme concept. If you have, like, 4 powder kegs, right? And you use Lamb's Respite on them, and you warning shot, like, 3 times, the kegs will persist, right? And that means your warning shots will all be able to, you know, get the keg buff, because the kegs can't die. That's a funny meme. That one's definitely not going to be competitive, but 3 regions. Well, this one isn't running Tarragon. Guys, these are different decks. Why would you run out of the way if you were running kegs, guys? All right. Spirit Leech. Spirit Leech. So the saving grace of this card is that its playability isn't a skill, right? The Etherfiend is a skill. That's this circle icon. That means it goes on the stack and can be countered. Spirit Leech can't be fizzled. It can't be countered. This resolves immediately, which is cool. Kill an ally to draw 2. Honestly, it's not bad. I don't see this hitting competitive decks, but it's not bad. If this had 2 health, it would make a lot more sense. The Etherfiend, I just don't see. This one looks like a mega clunker. Fading Icon, I compared this originally to a House Spider with kind of different stat distributions. The Prey is like a good sacrifice target. I think this is, I mean, it's basically a worse version of House Spider. Especially, you know, without the Spider keyword, not that that matters here. If you're looking for a sacrifice target on 2, we can compare this to Cursed Keeper as well, Fading Icon. Cursed Keeper, of course, is kind of the same thing. It's a 2-mana sacrifice target with a body. Keeper, of course, needs a sacrifice target to get the body, but that's still a really powerful trade-off when your body is a 4-3 instead of a 3-1, is a really big deal. So I think, like, for most decks that want to play at the speed, Cursed Keeper is better early. Fading Icon has some defensive potential, but on defense, I think you'd rather just run, like, a Hapless anyway, because this is also just a way to get 2 blockers. So I don't really see Fading Icon really sliding it in compared to those alternatives. Not enough of a reason to use this, I think. Shadow Isles has so many good cards for, like, going wide and generating sacrifice targets. This one seems a little bit below that, I'm thinking. Mask Mother. And this is kind of like the last and most interesting one. Because this one, it looks really scalable to me, too. Kill an ally to grant me its stats and keywords. So what can we use with Mask Mother, guys? What can we use with Mask Mother? Do we know if this will do Ephemeral? Do we have any idea? Because usually when it says keywords, it doesn't mean Ephemeral. Probably only positive keywords. Darkwater Scourge again? Wait, if it doesn't take the ephemeral key, so most things that don't take keywords, most things that take keywords don't take ephemeral. Ephemeral is like kind of not really a keyword in this game anymore. When they say keywords, they mean positive ones. That's so funny. Is it actually just Darkwater Scourge again? Same with Lamb's Respite? Because if it doesn't take ephemeral, you need to play them on the same turn, so that would be turn 5. What else? Grant me its stats and keywords. Usually, when we can combine a lot of keywords together, that can get a little scary. They Who Endure. It's good if something gets, like, stunned, as well. It's a good counter to a stun. It's a good way, like usually this kind of effect in card games is a good way to take temporary buffs and make them permanent. So if you're using a temporary buff, if you have a card that's like buffs big for a specific turn or something like that, Mask Mother can turn that into permanent because it'll eat the unit. It doesn't care about the temporary buffs, and it'll turn those temporary stats permanent. Sparklefly. Oh, Sparklefly. Sparklefly. That's kind of annoying, actually. That is kind of annoying, actually, because this is basically a buff card. This one looks pretty cool. There's a lot of ways to use this. There's definitely a lot of ways to use this. And of course, it's a sacrifice card, so you can combine it with like half of Shadow Isles. Like obviously it's got Slay synergy, it's got Undying synergy. But I don't know if it'll be good enough in those decks because there's so many premium ways to sacrifice cards in Shadow Isles already. What I'm really more interested in is like, how can we abuse this keyword aspect of it? How can we abuse this keyword aspect of it? There's got to be some better ideas. You can use it with Shadow Fiend. I might have to revisit this one later. This one's a little bit tricky. Song of the Isles, yes. If Song of the Isles, if Mask Mother doesn't eat Ephemeral, I'm gonna have to just wait and see how that works out. But if Mask Mother doesn't eat Ephemeral, then you can use it with Song of the Isles the same way you can use it with Darkwater Scourge. So that's an interesting one. So far, I'll put down Mask Mother as a potential card. Unto Dusk seems kind of awkward. Nick, can I get confirmation that you wouldn't run this even in Nightfall? Whenever I see a new Nightfall card, I just ask Nick to confirm that he wouldn't run this even in Nightfall, and then we can move on. I would 100% run it. Okay, hang on. You run this in Nightfall? What are you running this on? You can use it on, like, Doom Beast? What are the targets for this? It is a good way to trigger Nightfalls as well, if you are thirsty for a way to trigger Nightfall. I do remember there was a point in time where Nightfall decks were running like Guiding Touch because they were so thirsty for Nightfall triggers. And you can use this as a first action on a turn in the same way as like a 2-mana draw 1 just to trigger Nightfall. Of course, you skip the 2 healing, but this has other abilities. Aphelios. You should just use it on Aphelios. So yeah, if you combine this with Aphelios, you'd have to be in Shadow Isles. And Aphelios, ooh, you could maybe build an actual proper Aphelios Nightfall Shadow Isles deck. Maybe this is the card that links Aphelios with Shadow Isles now. Because they've been kind of two disparate concepts, but yeah, activating Aphelios' trigger, isn't that just kind of like playing Aphelios' champ spell? Isn't that just kind of okay? Yeah. I mean, it's not bad. It's definitely a potential card. Song of the Isles. I can't think of a way to use this one, guys. Am I dumb? I mean, lifesteal for the turn is kind of crazy. It's sort of like in a slow control-y Shadow Isles deck, you can use it in a similar way to how some slow decks have run like Spirit's Refuge. Use it on Undying. Oh, it could be sick with Undying. It actually could be. Makes Undying viable. So, you know what? Undying actually might be viable. I think it would be harder than it seems for Undying to really be generally viable. We've seen it in the history of Runeterra. We've seen Undying like twice in very niche tournament lineups in very niche metas. It makes some sense in some kinds of like anti-meta tournament strats. The reason Undying has a hard time really working in the game right now is actually pretty simple. Most decks, most of the most efficient sacrifice cards, the most efficient cards at sacrificing your units and playing for that strategy are playing at a really fast speed. And these are like the triangle of Cursed Keeper, Ravenous Butcher, and of course, Blighted Caretaker. Blighted Caretaker being kind of like the last piece of the puzzle here. Blighted Caretaker, when this launched, this was absolutely insane. This elevated that kind of deck to a new level. It wasn't really, Keeper Butcher wasn't even that good before Blighted Caretaker came out. So yeah, that's the triangle, like Keeper, Butcher, Caretaker. And those cards are so efficient and they kill so fast that usually you would rather just run the kind of like faster version of the deck, because if you're running Undying, you want ways to be able to sacrifice units, and if your ways of sacrificing units are playing at a fast speed, then your Undying is just kind of like slowing down the deck, right? That's been the problem with Undying. And I've gone on the record saying it will take a lot to make Undying viable on ladder, like properly viable on ladder. And I honestly think we're getting close. Like, they are getting a lot. They are getting a lot. I could see, like, there's so many different ways to try to mess around with an Undying deck now. And a lot of these Shadow Isles and Shurima cards are playing at the slower speed that Undying does want to play at. There's a lot more, like, synergy points with them. Because, yeah, Song of the Isles is kind of potentially pretty good with Undying. I don't know if it's even best. Like, Undying is a weird deck to build. You can build it in a lot of different ways. But they're getting a lot of options at the very least. And I might actually give them a proper try. I might actually. I still wouldn't hold out that much hope because, like I said, they've been further from viability than I think a lot of people have even been aware of. But they're getting a lot. So yeah, maybe I'll try out Undying. All right, that's all the new cards. Yo, this is pretty cool. For the record, this Shurima Shadow Isles kind of blends together. And there's so many different ways this can look. You can build this aggressive with Bakai Reaper rampaging behind the Cursed Keeper triangle I mentioned earlier. That's going to be a nuts deck. You can build this slow with Undying even. There's a lot of, even within Undying, there's like 5 different ways to build it. You can build it slow with Fearsomes. You can build it in like the kind of like slow control-y package. Like you can use the Slay package from Shadow Isles, maybe without even being in Shurima. You can build kind of like a slower version of a deck that's running Shadow Isles Shurima and trying to go for the Nasus Atrocity game plan. You can go for more of a Harrowing Ruination style deck. There's so many ways to build this. And even like in the realm of stuff we were talking about before, Lamb's Respite has some crazy combos we mentioned before. And even Mask Mother, I might have to think more about this. Like, there's a lot of different ways to play these. So far, from all the cards revealed thus far, these last two are the ones that are just, for me, the most hype. Like, the Mono Shurima stuff, I'm feeling will be kind of like more of a fun meme than anything else, but we haven't seen Azir yet. Renekton I like, but I don't love. Jarvan is powerful, but not for me. But man, this stuff... Like, the Shurima Shadow Isles package. I love all the different ways to build this. This is going to be so cool. All right, guys. What else is here? What other aspects of these combos have I missed out on? I might be able to, by the way. I'm going to try to, like, ask someone at Riot if I can get, like, a couple of rulings on how specific things work. Like, we've had those in the expansions in the past where we've had, like, Riot confirmation that things work in very specific ways. So I'll see if I can get someone to confirm how, like, whether Mask Mother absorbs Ephemeral or not. Okay? And we'll see. I actually, there might be other things we might want to try to get Riot confirmation on. Oh, wow. That's it. I actually, right now, we just got confirmation. The guy I messaged responded. Mask Mother only takes good keywords. So it does not take Ephemeral. Quite a big deal. We're gonna have to theorycraft this one. All right, guys. Oh, I'm so ready.